Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow collectors and hobbyists, this is my State of the Hobby Address 2025. Hello everyone, and thank you for stopping by. These are just going to be my thoughts on the sports card hobby in 2025. I've broken it down into several different categories: total hobby, the YTCC YouTube card community, my channel in particular, and then new card production, etc. So let's get started. Just my thoughts, these are just my thoughts on all this, just opinions, but just wanted to talk about my experience and what I think about the current hobby and everything involved with it. It's not a perfect hobby, but there isn't one. It's probably my favorite hobby that I've ever been involved with, and it's a good one. So it's a good hobby. I think it's in a pretty good place. There's obviously negatives no matter where you're at in this planet, but I think this hobby is in a pretty good place right now. Nothing lasts forever, but I do enjoy this hobby as a whole, and despite any of the negatives out there. And I really been happy to be back into it for the last several years, eight years or so that I've been back into it. Of course, I started in 1990. Took a break from approximately 07 to 17, something like that, and I've been back rocking and rolling ever since. But it's a great hobby. It keeps pulling me back in, and so here I am. Negatives though, pricing certainly. Since the pandemic, pricing is really high, especially on the high grade stuff. A lot of the vintage stuff, a lot of the rare stuff is high, but mostly the new product. You're never going to get value out of the cost of new product, and we'll get into that later with all the breaking and stuff like that. But the pricing is too high now. That's a big negative. And then grading is now a big negative. I used to really enjoy grading, but now the companies, they don't know how to grade. You can literally send in a card on any given day to any company, resend it to that company or another company. It's not going to be the same grade. You can have an altered, trimmed in one holder and the 9 in the other holder of the same exact card. So it's no longer objectively a good service, but it's needed. We need it for online commerce. We need it for values in our collection. So it's kind of frustrating to need something so bad that is so inconsistent. And another one about pricing, it's too expensive for the regular guy just to send off cards $20-25 at a time when they want everything slabbed. And now you got SGC getting swallowed up and now probably crushed by collectors. Eventually might go away. Now we've seen Pete, they've gotten rid of him. He was about the only likable guy in the grading space that was, at least his public persona was likable. Nat and Hoj and these guys with PSA, they don't say much, but when they do, these aren't the most likable guys ever, and they're not the most trustworthy guys ever. So it's just tough to like grading with the pricing, the inconsistencies, the people behind it. And SGC, giving us some hope that they were going to fight PSA and be something as a great alternative, and now that is in jeopardy, and they got rid of the only good guy, and they're back to just being tight-lipped and no real good positive face out there. I do hope that Pete gets out and stays in the hobby somewhere. I hope we see him crop up somewhere and be his positive self for something in this hobby. But who knows? Maybe he's not going to do that. But grading to me is a big negative right now. The hobby, if you'd asked me even a year ago, I would have said, man, this is all one hobby. Of course, I want everybody to get along and like each other and all that kind of stuff. But, vintage versus modern, Pokemon, I think, I mean, it's almost a completely different thing. If you like it, that's great. Nothing against anybody that likes any kind of hobby, but I just don't understand it. I'm not into it. And but it is taking over. It's taking over grading. It's taking over the shows. It's got a big presence now. A lot of people love it. A lot of young people love it, and even some adults. So that to me is kind of a separate hobby. But even vintage and modern is kind of turning into kind of a separate hobby. I mean, there's some people that can straddle the fence and do both. But that kind of leads me into the YTCC, the YouTube card community. The biggest segment is obviously the Jeff Wilsons of the world and the Breakers and all the ultra modern stuff. They just get massive views. But our little community, which is mostly a vintage community, it's almost a different hobby than what I do. And people call me modern, and they call the brand new products being open modern. There is a difference between the ultra modern packs being open and then stuff that I collect from mostly 30-40 years ago, but that's called modern by a lot of these guys, and they want the really old stuff. So it seems like there is a separation. It seems like there is kind of a different hobby that we're in. We run in different circles. In the YouTube card community, views across the board in our community are just down. People just aren't tuning in like they were. A lot of people came on board during the pandemic, and some of them stuck around for a few years, but a lot of that is gone, and it's a lot less views for anybody that wasn't around back then, or isn't in a certain segment of what we do. All-Star voting going on right now. Eric Fourleaf puts that on. Get your votes out there. I know I'm not going to get a lot of votes on that kind of thing because I'm not a vintage guy in this community that I happen to be a part of. Just strangely enough, I am a part of a community that's mostly vintage guys. It's just the first community that I connected with, I guess, when I saw YouTube videos, and it's just what I stuck with. So there's not a huge presence of guys like me on YouTube. I think there's a lot more of me out there that collect the more modern stuff and the nostalgic stuff and the stuff that isn't 50 to 130 years old. And it is what it is. Maybe I don't fit in this vintage community. Maybe I'm not the kind of guy that fits in real well with where I've put myself. So I have backed off a little bit of that community, the people that don't really care about me or what I do. I'm kind of just stay into my own self. My audience is what I want to serve. And but the all-star votes, let's get those out. Let's recognize some good channels, even if it's not me. Just recognize your favorite channels out there, and try to brighten somebody's day with those votes. Like even mine, I had a lot longer list than I was able to give because there's a limitation on who you can vote for. People like Brian Hypop, Professor, I love the guy. He was on my list, but he didn't come out of the hat. I feel terrible. So there's always going to be some people left off that you wish you could have voted for. The Rookies of the Year, I had several guys that I wanted to root for and vote for, or I do root for, but I wanted to vote for, and it just, it's impossible to do with only two choices. But I would encourage people to get the all-star votes out. Let's get some people some votes and have some fun with that. The YouTube card community is a good group of guys for the most part. There are some big egos. There are some unfriendly folks. And, when I left temporarily, which I thought was permanent at the time, a lot of negative stuff came out from people, and it was hurtful. And, that damaged my feeling of the community a little bit. I would say I feel worse about the community as a whole today than I did a year ago before I started doing YouTube videos. I used to be in the chats a lot more. I used to feel a little bit more welcome. It's a little bit different feeling now, and I know there's others out there that feel the same way because I've spoken to them. It seems like the community is a little bit different in the YouTube card community, but it's mostly positive. It's mostly a lot of good guys, and I will support all the good guys that I can as much as I can. It is a vintage world, though, If you're not talking about the Jeff Wilson type stuff, if you're talking about our little community, it's mostly vintage guys. And you know, if modern isn't outright ostracized in the community, it's marginalized at the very least. The best analogy I can come up with that is Thanksgiving. You know, you go to Thanksgiving, all the family comes over to one house. You know, you're about to have the big dinner, and then you know, you got the adult table over here, and you got the kids table over here, and that's kind of the way it feels in this community. You know, a lot of the vintage guys just kind of pat you on the head, and you know, yeah, you go over to the kiddie table and collect that stuff that you're collecting, and you know, us adults in the room will go talk about our older cards and you know, collect the real stuff. And even for people that don't say that, that's just kind of implied in this community. So that's not the greatest feeling, but you know, it is what it is. That's what most of the people in this community respect. That's what they want to watch, all that kind of stuff. A year ago, I would have told anybody that collected cards, you should start a channel. You know, just get on. This is the greatest thing ever, you know. Today, if someone asked me if they should start a channel, I would have some questions, and I would say it's not for everybody. I would say maybe, certainly maybe it could be great for you. But it depends on what your expectations and goals are with the channel, because a lot of guys aren't going to get a lot of views. There are some brand new guys that are getting way more views than Hall of Fame YouTubers that have been doing this for years. A lot of those guys have never even sniffed 1,000 views on a video, and there's new guys that have a lot of videos with massive views. And it kind of depends on what you're doing. Certainly if you started before or during the pandemic, with all the eyes coming onto YouTube looking for sports card content and a lot fewer people in the pool to watch, you know, those people built up big audiences, and they're always going to have those, and the new people aren't going to be quite the same as that. It's almost impossible to grow like those guys did, and a lot of people have left, but a lot of people have stuck with guys like that because they've watched them for so many years. So if you can handle that, and you're not too worried about how many subs and views and everything you're going to get, I'd say it's a good community to join. If you're worried about all that stuff, like I used to be somewhat, I've changed my mind since coming back. I have a different mentality, which we'll talk about in a bit. But if you're not worried about that stuff, then it's okay. It's kind of like, this whole community is kind of like high school. You know, you got the star quarterback over here who everybody loves. He thinks life is great. I mean, he thinks this is just wonderful, at least until he graduates, and then he's a small fish in a big pond. But during high school, he thinks life is great. Everything's wonderful. You know, the guys want to be him. The girls want to be with him. You know, he's living large and loving life. And then you got the guy back over in the corner that's ignored and or bullied, and you know, he thinks about killing himself. You know, this same classroom, same school, completely different experience within the same realm. And that's the way it is here. It's all the types of people that are out there in the real world are here in this community as well, and there's a bunch of different ones. I have spoken to quite a few people that have quit their YouTube channel, and you know, no one even noticed. There's some other guys that came and quit before you even noticed that they were there. There are several guys that you know now that are on YouTube, and some of them pretty popular, some of them not, that are thinking about leaving the space. So not everybody has a great experience here. Not everybody feels welcome. Just know that. Be sensitive to that. These are human beings. Everybody that's doing content on here is a human being. They all have feelings. And when you put your effort out there and put yourself out there, and no one watches, or you feel like no one watches, very few people watch or engage with you, you know, it's not a great feeling. No matter what you want to say about it, it is what it is. It's a bad feeling for some people, and they've left. And some people are still thinking about walking away from it. Now, some people jump on and they have great success, skyrocketing success, and they would tell anybody to start a channel because their particular experience was so good. They get all the friends, they get, you know, all the great experiences. They go to shows, hang out. You know, if you're wealthy, or if you do like news and current events, or you're doing show videos or a lot of vintage stuff, you know, you're going to get a lot more eyeballs, and you're going to get a lot better experience than if you're like me or someone that just is showing a collection. Collector content is kind of dead now. It's kind of a dead segment doing stuff like I do, where you just love the cards, you want to show your cards, you want to talk about them. It's a lot smaller segment than people that want to see the news and all of the other stuff that comes along with the hobby, the drama. I try to avoid it as much as possible, but bad news and drama, I don't like. And I'm not the kind of guy that's going to click on all that, but most people are. They love it. They love a train wreck. They want to watch it. It's just kind of crazy to me, but that's the way it is. And I certainly don't like people that tear down people in our community or say negative things about anybody here. I think we should be lifting each other up. My mama told me, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. And so I think at the very least, you just don't say anything. At the very most, you encourage people and talk kindly to them. And so if you join this space, hopefully you will feel welcome, because that has not been the experience for everybody. It really hasn't. Whether you have a great experience and you think it's all wonderful, it is for you, and I'm glad. If you're popular and you're having a great time, even if you're a small channel and you just love what you're doing, you love the interaction that you do get, that's wonderful. And that's enough for you. That's great. But for some people that I know and I care about, it wasn't that kind of experience. So I've always had empathy. I've just grown up like that. I always root for the little guy. I always, with underdog teams and everything, and new channels, I've always tried to help. Some of them I help, and they passed me way up. That's great. Some of them just grow like crazy, get tons of views, and subs are growing. That's wonderful. They say, happiness is progress. And if you're progressing in anything, whether it's money or career or YouTube, whatever it is, you feel happy. The first 6 months I did this, I really felt really positive about everything, because it was a positive growth trajectory, and I just felt good. I felt the community. I was making new friends. It was a great thing. In the last few months, the channel just basically died. It just stopped. Other people kept growing. I just stopped. So, at one point I said, hey, with my particular channel, maybe I'm wasting my time. If no one's watching this stuff and caring about it, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And of course, I decided to stop. And then the only reason I came back was just a bunch of kind people saying, look, man, we want you to stick around. We like what you do. And even if it's a smaller thing, we think it's worth you being around. So that's why I'm back. I'm back to serve my audience, even if it's a small audience. I'm just trying to make the best videos I can for the people that actually comment on my videos and care. That's it. Those are the core guys. And everybody that watches. Of course, I appreciate anybody that takes their time to watch my stuff. But views and all that, if you worry too much about it, you're going to get discouraged. And even a view, you might have a 20-minute video, but if you check analytics, it might be people are only watching 5 minutes of it. I don't look at analytics. There's no reason for that for me. It's discouraging. Plus, I'm not trying to build a business here or anything like that. There's no reason for me to do that. So, I'm not looking at that stuff. I'm just putting content out there. I love the cards. I want to be enthusiastic about this stuff and have fun with the guys that engage with my channel and comment, and the guys that are like-minded. I do still try to, support a lot of other guys, even vintage guys that I like, and I try to hop on and watch their vids as much as possible and comment and give them positive feedback, because I think that's important. Most people that watch these videos don't even take the millisecond to hit the little thumbs up. I mean, anybody could do that the first few seconds they watch a video, but most people don't, and hardly anybody makes comments. But I try to do as much as I can. That's another thing about the YouTube card community. It is so big now. There are so many content creators, and we always encourage people to start and do channels, and for a lot of them it works out well. But it's now so diluted. There's just so many channels, you can't watch them all. Even someone like me that wants to watch all kinds of channels, I want to be able to watch everything and comment on everybody and hit the like and do all that kind of stuff. Now there's so many. There's a ton of guys I don't even know about. And some of the ones I do, I can't even get around to watching every video they do. It's just impossible now. You only have so much time in a day to spend on YouTube. So don't get discouraged by it. If you're doing it, it's just there's a lot of people out there. I don't want to say competition, because we're not competing with each other, but there's a lot of other places for the eyeballs to go and spend time. and they're going to do it with whatever they feel is the best use of their time. A channel like mine isn't the best use of everybody's time, so they're not going to watch it. And there's a lot of people that are new, that are small. I hope you're not discouraged. It's just you have to just do it for the fun of it, and accept and have great time with any friends that do come along and enjoy your channel. It's what makes it worth it. You can't worry too much about the growth and all that kind of stuff, because my channel is capped out. It's stopped a long time ago. I've been at 600 and something subs for a while, and it grew fairly fast to that point, and that felt great. I was really happy about that. But then now I know where it is. I kind of know the level of what's out there for people that want to watch me, and about a third of the people that sub to me watch the videos. That's kind of how that is. And very, very few of them hit the like or comment. But now I have a great relationship with my commenters. I absolutely love the back and forth with them and having fun with baseball cards. That's what it's all about to me. But as far as my channel, deciding to leave and then being kind of drawn back in just by a bunch of good folks, I just changed my mentality. I don't have any goals for the channel anymore. I'm not trying to get to any certain point or any of that kind of stuff, because that'll just drive you mad. I'm just putting videos out there. I'm just trying to be a positive light community member, whether that's reciprocated or not. I guess it doesn't matter. It's just I'm going to find the people that care, and the people that are going to comment on the videos, and those are the people that I'm doing it for. Absolutely number one. And then the other guys that are just my friends in the hobby that do their own thing, and I'll try to support them as much as I can. And anybody new that comes along that catches my eye and is doing something cool, or just being a really kind guy and a good member of the community, I'm going to try to support them as much as possible. But there's only so much time in a day, so that's kind of it for my channel. As far as the new product and such, there's no perfect solution to this, and everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got a different opinion on this kind of thing. The hobby needs new product, whether you like it or not. We can be all old codgers about it and say that we only buy old stuff. It doesn't matter to us, but to the hobby, you have to have people buying new product. You have to have people opening. And then you got the breakers and repackers supporting a lot of that now, which, we all kind of look at a little bit weird. But, if all that was to end tomorrow, it might be completely devastating to the hobby. I know people like Mangini wouldn't care too much, just because, he would get a discount on his cards if everything crashed, and he would just buy more cards. He's fine otherwise. But, he also sees a lot of different sides of the hobby, and he has, a little overall view of the hobby a little bit better than some, where he does, care about the people that do collect modern and stuff like that. So if we want everybody to enjoy the hobby, we have to be able to accept, even if we don't participate in these different areas, we have to kind of be able to accept them. But breaking and repacks, all that kind of stuff, who knows? But if all the new stuff stopped, it would be a bad thing for the hobby. But there's only a finite number of dollars that can be poured into this each year. Whether it's new product or whatever, there's the single market, whatever, there's only so many dollars that can be put in. So if stuff's going up, something else is falling by the wayside. As far as the new product, when there's only so many dollars that can be spent, we have different camps. We have a camp all the way to one side that says, I liked it when it was just Topps and there was one iconic rookie card of everybody. They printed it to the moon, whatever. And then they have camps over here all the way to, I want as much competition and product as possible, thousands of different rookie cards and parallels and everything else. And then you have everything in between. I probably stand somewhere in the middle of that. I do wish for simpler times, but those times are gone. We're not going to get the one Topps rookie back. It's not going to happen. There's not enough money in it for these companies to do that kind of thing. But you can have, one set with printed billions of it, all the way to hundreds of sets printed, really limited. And then you can have 10, 15 sets printed with kind of medium distribution. Everybody's got a different opinion on what will work. But make no mistake, fanatics and collectors, they run this hobby. So they're going to do whatever's best for their shareholders to make money. I know they don't want to crush the long-term hobby, but they're focusing on profits now. They're taking advantage of, while sports cards are hot, trying to make as much money for everybody and themselves and their shareholders as possible. And it may damage the future hobby. I'm sure they look at all this stuff and try to come up with a good balance, but nobody has the perfect solution to this stuff. I don't, and you don't. We don't know what the future holds on all this, but and then you got licensed versus unlicensed. You got, the million different parallels and all this kind of stuff. A lot of people think that's fun. A lot of people absolutely hate it. So where is the perfect hobby? Like, what would be the perfect solution to be a strong hobby now, but keep it strong all the way into the future? We don't really know. We don't really know the balance of that. I kind of like where the 90s were, where you had some competition, you had a bunch of innovation because of it. And you did have some stuff printed to the moon, but you had a lot of really limited stuff. But now it's out of control in a lot of ways. And I don't think you can put the Pandora back in the box. So what the future holds, we don't know. But it's true that if you have so many different products, none of them become iconic. You're still going to have the flagship product, but people are literally throwing those commons away. Gone are the days that I loved when I was a kid, and you go to the store and your mom buys you a pack of 90 Tops, and you get it and you're just so excited about it. You're keeping the wrapper even because it just seems like such a special thing. You're opening it up, the smell, the cards, the gum. You're chewing the gum while you're flipping through the cards in the car on the way home. Those were just magical times. You're trying to find a guy from your team in that pack, or a star or someone that you connect to that you're looking for, and you hit him. You're so happy. Those were the simple days, but they're not coming back. So they've had to try to amp up everything over time. You make a more exciting hit for people. And that's where the hobby is now. And I don't think you can go all the way back to simple, basic cards from one set. So I don't know what the balance is. They don't know what the balance is. They're just trying to capitalize and make as much money as possible. And it may hurt the long-term hobby. But, it is what it is. And in PSA, people are sending cards in that aren't even worth as much as the grading fee. Just, monetarily, none of this stuff makes any sense. But I wish everything was still simple, at least back to 90s simple, if not before that. But it's, that wouldn't work. There's a way bigger hobby now. There's billions of dollars being spent on all this stuff, and they have to have enough product for all that. There's so many dollars that can be spent, and they have to figure out how to distribute it. And even breakers and all that stuff are a part of that cog now. And I don't see a way to get out of it. That gets into the gambling side of things, which I don't want to get too much into, but there are people that are addicts to this kind of stuff, but there are people that are gambling on sports all the time. It's just the sports hobby as a whole is just very gambling heavy now. They ostracized Pete Rose, of course, because he was betting on his own sport, but all of these guys are making billions of dollars off the sports companies, sports betting companies now, and they're all in bed with them. So it's been very interesting to see that. It's kind of the way it's crept into the hobby as well. It's a big part of things. But I don't know what the answer is. I don't think there's a perfect answer. But we're gonna have to just see. We're gonna have to just see what happens. If everything comes crashing down, we'll see what keeps getting printed. We'll see where the prices land with all this stuff that's gone up. A lot of it's come down since the pandemic, but a lot of the rare stuff has gone up, but it's a wealthy man's game at this point. There's no common person that can collect a lot of what they want. They just have to kind of pick and choose a lane. There's still cards out there that are cheap if they're in bad condition, vintage, and then there's the commons and a lot of different things that are fairly cheap new if you're buying it secondhand, but no new product is really cheap anymore. There's no kids game anymore, really. And then even if you're buying that stuff, even a box at Walmart, a little tiny box with almost nothing in it, there's a bunch of shrinkflation going on with that stuff. There's less cards per box every year, and there's more cost per box every year, and then you don't get really anything out of it that's worth anything. So I hope people are just enjoying the cards. You know, it's and you talk about these big cards. I mean, I don't have money for these humongous cards, but even if I did, the problem with going down that road and consolidating, to me, and then once again, this is just all my opinion. This is how I collect. If you start getting rid of everything and then just going after huge cards, I wouldn't want a collection personally that's like 20 cards that are $20,000 a piece. I would look at them and I would almost feel weird about it. I would, you know, I would want other things. And it's, once you start getting into that stratosphere of collecting those kind of cards, your regular cards that I love and cherish, they stop seeming special. They stop feeling like those cards are special, because you got these huge cards that are super special to you, and then the other stuff starts to seem lesser, and people just start jettisoning that stuff because they don't care about it anymore. I don't really want to get to that. I remember a story about a guy had an old violin, and it was just this piece of junk, garage sale looking thing, beat up, and he was, you know, just gonna toss it aside, and the guy came up and said, no, that's a Stradivarius, and it's worth over $1 million. So he went from just, you know, whatever to, you know, just, you know, now I need white gloves, and I'm barely shaking just holding this thing. It's just, you know, the awe. This is amazing. You know, went from thinking he was going to toss it in the junk pile in a garage sale to, you know, everything just changed knowing what it was. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that awe for the cards that I collect. You know, a really cool Nolan Ryan card, or a card that just has an awesome image on it. If I had too many $5,000 cards, I wouldn't care about these cards anymore. And I don't want to lose that feeling about the cards that I collect. So that's just how I am. You know, a lot of people want to consolidate, get rid of everything, and just go for larger stuff. But I'd like to look at a lot more cool stuff than to look at a few things that are very expensive. That's just me. That's just how I collect. I don't want to, if I ever lose that feeling about all my cards, I probably won't collect. I'll probably just sell everything at that point, because I want that awe. I want that excitement with any card that I just enjoy. It could be $1, it could be $50. You know, a big card for me is $200 or $300. That's a big card. But it's something worth tens of thousands of dollars. I'm not in that stratosphere, but if I was, let's say I hit the lottery, how would all that change? I don't know, but you know, I don't want to lose that feeling toward my collection and the way I've collected for forever, for decades, and lose the magic of it. There's certain things in my life that I try to protect. Like, I'm jaded on a lot of things in life because of a lot of things that have happened to me, and a lot of us are. But there's certain things I intentionally try to protect, to keep that kind of childlike awe for. Like Christmas is one of them. I just refuse to let myself get jaded toward it. I want to just feel magical in that season with the music and everything. Of course, the real meaning of Christmas, but also even all the other Frosty the Snowman stuff. I just want that whole feeling and the cool air outside, you know, campfires, whatever. I don't ever want to lose that. The Christmas tree, you know, lights, going out with the family, seeing that stuff. That's one area of life. Baseball cards is another one. I don't want to lose that childlike magic that comes with these cards. So I protect my brain against anything that would jade me toward this. It's a great hobby. It's a wonderful community we're in. There's always going to be some problems here and there, but as a whole, I really love the friends that I have, especially the ones that communicate with me through the channel and leave the comments and appreciate what I do. You know, it's just the best. And baseball cards is the best hobby in my opinion. I just absolutely love it. There's no perfect hobby, but this is a great one. But those are kind of my thoughts on everything as a whole in this hobby. And you know, the YouTube card community, my channel personally, the hobby as a whole, new product. That's just kind of that's my thoughts. Of course, everybody can disagree on everything. That's fine. But just thank you if you ever spent time watching my videos. If you normally don't watch my videos and you see this one, if you're vintage only, you don't care about my kind of stuff, fine. But thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I appreciate anybody that spends any time doing this kind of thing. It's just, it's a great deal. Even if I don't fit in the vintage community a lot, I try to support people. You know, I appreciate any time anybody spends dropping a comment for me or watching a video, believe me. But thank you to all of you. Let's just try to be kind to each other. Let's try to support each other the best way we can with whatever time we can. We can't have time for everything in every channel on every video anymore, but as much as we can, let's support each other. Let's show some love. It's a good hobby. I still feel pretty good about it. Some things have changed, but hey, it's still a great hobby and I still am a part of it. So thank you guys. I really appreciate you watching this. You guys take care and we will see you on the next one. Thanks.